this topic has come up frequently for us at Virtual Sapiens because, as you know, we use AI as a coach to help professionals improve and master their communication skills. And it's really interesting because what that use case and application of AI introduces a big question that comes up for a lot of our clients and customers and partners, which is like, well, we love this idea. We agree it's very efficient. It saves a lot of people time. On-demand coaching is great. But like, how are you at Virtual Sapiens, how are you ensuring that the AI doesn't become so prescriptive that like everyone's getting the same types of feedback and then all of a sudden everyone's behaviors are the same, right? And so it's just a really interesting, so I guess you could call it like the balance or the fine line between making sure something's personalized but not prescriptive. That's at least how we refer to it at Virtual Sapiens. And we've done a lot of work in making sure our AI is personalized and not prescriptive. But curious if you've thought much about that distinction.
Well, firstly, like I'm a huge advocate for Virtual Sapiens. Obviously, I love what you guys do. Otherwise, I wouldn't work with you guys. And that's saying a lot given that I am a nonverbal coach. So I support a business that could technically take away my business. But I believe in what you guys do so much that I think that it's the future. And I love coaching nonverbally in person, but not everybody can afford in-person fees. And not everybody has that opportunity. So making that training available is so key. And what's funny about that is they say, well, what if AI makes it prescriptive? What AI does is just simulate what we do in person, because we teach nonverbal communication based on universally recognized cues. Those cues are those cues. They're based on the hard literature, the academic science, and what we have seen in practice time and time again that is effective. Those things don't change. So what I do as an in-person coach is the same as what you guys do as a virtual coach, of we give the recommendations of those universal cues. And now I say to my clients that it's not about doing everything exactly perfectly as I teach it.
Right.
It's about recognizing what behaviors create more trustworthiness and create more confidence or appearance of confidence, perceptions of competence, all of those things. And then finding what feels comfortable.
Yes.
And when you find what feels comfortable, it's about not doing that behavior exactly 100% as everybody else does. You learn that behavior because you need that information of this is what creates this outcome that you want. And then it's about creating what feels comfortable in your behavioral repertoire. So what are your natural behaviors and how can you adapt those to be more in line with what's universally recognized as, I focus a lot on trustworthiness because it's such a strong social cue, and confidence and competence, which are almost one and the same thing. And then also how to build cooperation. So those things are the things that I focus on in terms of nonverbals, based on those universal cues, just as Virtual Sapiens does. But it's not you have to do these exact behaviors all the time. It's about these are the behaviors. Here's how to learn. I mean, you have to obviously learn them prescriptively to begin with, to go, that doesn't feel comfortable, that feels comfortable. And then I adapt as a coach into how to make them feel natural and how they work for you, just as Virtual Sapiens does.
Right. The what's interesting about what you just said, and I think is actually so interesting in this conversation, like putting AI aside, I'm sure you've seen the effects of improper nonverbal coaching as well. Like I feel like we see this with some of these like product launches, like at Meta or whatever, where Mark Zuckerberg will be like, hello, everyone. And like doing these very specific hello, like almost delayed nonverbals because they've been told like I should like wave or I should hold my hands like this. And it's so obviously uncomfortable for them that it's clearly coaching has been prescriptive versus personalized, nuanced, and like exploratory.
Yes. And that's such a great point. I'm glad you brought that up because I do sometimes like coaching the coach, and it can be a little bit confronting to see what's really going on and what's being taught out there. And you're right, like because we have these universal cues. So people go, okay, this is exactly what makes this perception. We forget also, nothing in psychology is 100%.
Yeah.
And although this cue may be strongly associated with increased trustworthiness perception, if you don't do it in a way that feels natural and comfortable, of course it won't be, because it's going to be perceived as robotic.
Yeah.
There's going to be mediators and moderators that impact its effect. Is it your shape, your size, your gender? All of those things do have an effect on our perception. So not everything is going to work the same for everybody. And if I have a client and I say, these are the behaviors that I tend to see to be most effective, and I teach them, and the way that they're taught doesn't work for them, I won't say you have to perfect it this way.
Yeah.
I will go through some training with them, or this is the cue. How feels comfortable for you to use this cue?
Right.
Because you can use a behavior in a million different ways. It's what feels comfortable to you. And I do laugh when I see politicians sometimes,
Yes,
and I
exactly.
watched Elon Musk once, and he doing this the whole time, and it felt so artificial, and you can tell that they've been coached to do those things.
Right.
But I see the coaches, they get dead set on behaviors rather than the integration of those behaviors with people's natural behavioral repertoire.
Yeah.
And when people have a natural way of talking, they think, how can I get rid of this way that I talk? That isn't the approach that I go, because I don't think that it's the right way. It's how do I adapt my natural approach to be more effective? I don't want to take away someone's natural, comfortable behaviors. That's what makes them unique. We all speak and talk and gesture slightly differently. But some people are very sharp, and that can be really intimidating. I don't want to take away that power. I just want to adapt it in a way that feels less threatening, but still comfortable for them.
Right.
So, and I think when we think of AI, we think of that prescriptive method that those coaches do. And I think a lot of things with AI are prescriptive like that. But virtual sapiens, because you have advisors and you are also an expert yourself, you have that recognition of, well, this doesn't work. Doing it this way doesn't work. So let's figure out what works. And the reason that we do these talks and you do so much research and you have advisors is it's all person focused. It's not about making people fit the technology. It's about making the technology fit the people. Same as when I coach, I'm not going in with an idea of these are the behaviors I'm going to tell you to do, and this is what you're going to look like when it comes out of it. All of my clients, once they feel really confident, none of them look the same. None of them are exactly the same, because they're all unique. And that's the way that it should be. And that's the way that we should be coaching, both in person and with AI.
Right. And that's, I think, I wasn't even expecting the conversation to go this way, but I do think, at least in the way that we've designed Virtual Sapiens, that the way the feedback is administered, what you leave up to the individual user to either discuss with their human coach, because we do partner a lot with coaches who use the AI as that practice tool. And then there's conversation and integration that happens between the coach and the user directly. Like there always has to be room for that integration practice of reflection and kind of an empowered decision that the individual makes in terms of, okay, this is the behavior that was reflected back to me. This is what I'm doing. How do I want to update that or tweak that or evolve that so that I can improve things like trustworthiness and rapport building, right?
Yeah.
It's just such an interesting, like, to keep that in mind in your human coaching, as much as we have to make sure that we are designing it into our AI coaching.
Yeah, people think that it goes learning and then integration, and it goes learning and then practicing. I'm so sorry. It goes learning and then practicing, and then reflection, and then integration. So people really want to go, like, they'll watch a talk on how to do nonverbals and go, I'm going to be a master after this talk. And I'm going to know everything there is to know. And a lot of that is on the speaker's fault. And I hate it when I see someone start a speech and they're like, at the end of this, you're going to be a master of this. At the end of this, you're going to know everything you need to know about this. That's not how human behavior works. It's not a realistic expectation. All you're doing is setting up those viewers or readers or audience members for failure, and it's not fair.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it sells tickets, it's not fair.
Mm-hmm.
So you learn the information, and you're not ever going to be able to learn everything all at once. You take the chunks,
Yeah.
then you practice. Virtual Sapiens is amazing for practice.
Yeah.
And then you reflect. So record yourself. And again, Virtual Sapiens is great for this stage because you get to reflect. You get this personalized reflective document of what was
Right.
good, what wasn't, try and
Yep.
do these things. You adapt them. And then you go back and forth from practice, reflection, practice, reflection, practice, reflection for a long time. Not with every single cue available, with some cues, because you can't manage everything all at once. It will fail.
Right.
You pick the ones that you're most focused on, that are most important to you. You practice perfecting those, and then you integrate into your real life interactions.
Yeah.
People think I can learn it, practice it once, and then I'll go and do it in my most important meeting.
I know.
No.
Yeah.
I get why people want the quick learning.
Of course. I mean, we want everything quickly these days. Like the immediacy
Exactly.
of
Yeah,
life
especially with
is to be
TikTok. I learned something in 60 seconds.
yes. Yes. Totally. Yeah.
But it just doesn't work that way. And Virtual Sapiens is really, really great for that practice, reflection stage.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's where I spend most of the time with clients,
Right.
is practice and reflection on, okay, we're just going to focus on hand gestures. We're
Mm-hmm.
just going to focus on face expressions. And then once they're integrated and they feel natural, okay, now
Yeah.
we go back to the learning
Yeah.
and we pick topics, we pick behaviors, and then we go through this long process again.
Right.
And people go, but that seems like a lot of work.
Yeah.
Well, do you learn Spanish in a
Yeah.
week?
Yeah.
No. Do
Yeah.
you learn tennis to be a master tennis player in a week? No.
Yeah.
You learn the rules, you practice, you integrate, and then you start competing.
Right. Right. Of
Nonverbals is a skill just like any other.
course.
It's a language.
Yeah.
Nonverbal communication, it literally is a language. If you want to speak it fluently, you got to put the time in to learn it.
Right. Yeah. And we see that too with our product where people are like,
Yeah.
oh, well, I was given the awareness, I was told what I was doing wrong. Like now I'm good. I know, and
Yes.
I'm a
But
professional. And then I
I
just
ran through it once. So am I
yeah.
perfect now? Am I a master
Right.
now?
Yeah. There's just such such expediency and
Yeah.
urgency and people just kind of moving to the next thing. And we always advise our clients, like, you should be using this tool consistently over like a 6 month to year period, because
Yes.
like we're talking about behavior change,
Yeah. I'm so glad you said 6 months to a year and not like a couple months,
yeah,
because the human brain doesn't adapt that quickly.
right.
And when I talk about making it part of your natural behavior repertoire,
Yeah,
what I ultimately mean is making it unconscious. Because
right.
when we're not thinking about how we present, we're presenting unconsciously. Most of what we do is unconscious.
Right.
When we're learning better nonverbals, the goal isn't to constantly be thinking about what am I doing? What am I doing? What am I doing? It's to have those behaviors integrated so deeply,
Mm.
you don't think about it.
Right.
They come really naturally to you. And I get this a lot when I'm on stage and they go, how are you focusing on so many things at once? And I'm like, I'm not,
Right.
because I've been doing this a long time.
Yeah.
Not necessarily speaking, but because I've been learning nonverbals for such a long time, I don't think about my nonverbal communication. It
Hmm.
doesn't even cross my mind anymore
Yeah.
how I'm presenting. So
Right.
I can focus my energy on assessing the other person in the interaction and my verbal communication,
Mm-hmm.
because I've made those behaviors so integrated. And
Hmm.
that's the ultimate goal when it comes to nonverbals. And that's why it's important not just to get this technology
Yeah.
and think I'm good now. I've done it a couple of times. Just like if you want a life coach, or
Yeah.
just like if you want a nonverbal coach, it's something, you don't go to therapy for one session and you're cured.
Yeah.
Anything when it comes to human behavior or, patterns of behavior, it takes time. So
Yeah.
just like Virtual Sapiens, it's something you should be doing as a regular practice.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. So something for our audience to keep in mind, right? Like, think about that reflection component, the integration component, and like actually repeating these behaviors to the point where it becomes like your new muscle memory.
Exactly.
Yeah. Awesome.
I have that term like nonverbal muscle memory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
memory. That's good. We'll coin that term.
Yeah, that's ours now.